Politician and independence campaigner Tommy Sheridan instead. This is his take of the week.
Choose life. Choose more jobs. Choose more homes. Choose a public or health service. Choose free education. Choose a living wage. Choose spending in hospitals and schools, not immoral nuclear bombs. Choose a new, fairer Scotland. Choose independence. Things you take on the telly. On the 18th of September, Scotland's got a massive choice to make, but it's got nothing to do with Alex Salmond, nothing to do with the SNP, nothing to do with any political party or any individual. This choice is about Scotland's future. This referendum is about freedom. Freedom to never have a Tory government in Scotland ever again. Since 1951, Scotland's never voted for the Tories, but we've had to endure 35 years of Tory government. Never again. It's time to reject the Westminster Creed of greed, the privatisation agenda that sells off our public services for the rich spivs in the City of London. We don't want any more of that. We want a first-class health and education system that's in public hands, run for social benefit, no private profit. We want to invest in berms, no bombs. We want to build a new and a fairer Scotland, a better Scotland, a more socially progressive Scotland. That's what we're going to build together. I choose to reject fear. I chose something else. And the reasons? Who needs reasons? And we've got this week.
And from the mean streets of Edinburgh, if you come from Paisley, they don't look mean at all, to our little mean street here in the Gilly-Doo, Tommy Sheridan joins us now. Tommy, welcome to the programme. So, independence for you is socialism in one country?
Independence for me is freedom, Andrew. Freedom from Tory governments, freedom to save the health service, freedom to keep education free, freedom to invest in berms, not bombs, the type of things that I've said in the
freedom
film there.
To build a Scottish Socialist Society?
I hope so. I certainly hope so. My vision of independent Scotland is going to be different from other people's visions, but we're not voting for political visions on the 18th of September. We're voting for the right to choose the vision we want 2 years down the line. That's what we're voting for. That's why freedom's important.
So if Scotland was, and I know this may be a hard think, but if Scotland was a right-of-centre country, as it was...
It's very hard to think. It's very hard to think.
But it was in the 1950s. It was in the 1950s. Would you still be in favour of independence?
Yes, very much so. Because, as I've said at my meetings, because one of your acolytes, Andrew, contacted me after a big meeting in Kirkcaldy when I said, vote for independence, there'll never, ever be a Tory government in Scotland, ever again. And this guy contacted me and said, but Tommy, the Tories get about 15-20% of the vote. They might win an election in Scotland. And I said, OK, I'm going to condition it. Vote for independence and we'll never, ever get a Tory government in Scotland again unless the people of Scotland voted for it, and there's more chance of my hair growing back in on my head than there is of the Tories getting back in Scotland.
So there's a slight chance.
Slight chance, very slight.
Diane, you must be rather attracted to this vision of Scotland. Why shouldn't Scots who think like Tommy, and you, sure you agree with everything he said, why shouldn't they go for it?
On the one hand, I can see the attraction for Scots of voting never to have a Tory government again. But I have to say, and this isn't an argument I'm putting to the Scottish people, but for the Labour Party in England, it was pretty disastrous.
But that's not his concern.
I know. The only thing I would say is that it doesn't seem to me that either party in Westminster, not talking about your party so much, but Tories or Labour, have a plan B if the Scots vote for independence. And I think that could be very difficult. If you do the unthinkable, we don't seem to have a plan B down in Westminster.
No, but again, why should he bother about that? He's thinking of what he would like Scotland to be.
Yeah, but I do think actually, Dan, that Andrew's a bit wrong by saying it would be a disaster for Labour in England, because I think working class folk...
I never mentioned Labour in England.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was you. Maybe it was Dan. Working class folk, I think, would be very, very impressed with what we do in Scotland. We're not going to abandon English working class people. We're going to lead them. We're going to show them that the neoliberal privatisation agenda of Westminster is not the only game in town. You can do things differently. That'll inspire people.
Charles, would an independent Scotland be as left as Tommy thinks?
No, it would not. I mean, I fear that it's been interesting about this lengthy debate within Scotland, and Tommy's drawing a distinction, which is a good one to hear, actually, the conflation of having the right to choose, but you can be certain, folks, that right will lead to the kind of egalitarian policies, the kind of non-nuclear policies, etc., 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 espoused by a certain part of the political spectrum. The Professor Curtises of your world, who grace your daily programme quite regularly, and we know well in Scotland, obviously, as does the rest of the UK, he always points out, and it's a valid point, opinion polls are interesting, but the social attitude survey that's conducted each year tells you much more. And actually, Scottish sentiment and opinion, politically and across a broad range of issues, is not nearly as out of kilter with the other side of the border as is often thought.
Let me bring Michael in. In purely party political terms, Scottish independence would make Tory governments more likely than they are now. Not always, but just more likely.
England, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
Correct. Why has David Cameron made such a commitment to the Union?
Because he believes in it, oddly enough, and he also believes that for a Tory Prime Minister to lose the Union would be a personal and political disaster.
Would he have to resign if
Yes,
he lost
definitely.
the Union? Are you Mike? I thought you were Tommy. You would want him to resign if he blew his nose.
Yes, absolutely.
If he loses the Union, having fought for it, does he have to resign?
He would be under tremendous pressure to resign.
Sorry,
can I keep going for a second?
Oh.
May I just address Tommy Sheridan's basic thesis? I think that independent Scotland would move to the right, not to the left. And the reason I think that is
Check the water.
the levels.
It's not water. Michael, carry on.
Sorry, Michael.
The levels of public spending which go on in Scotland today, the numbers of people employed by the state, the number of people housed by the state, the number of people on welfare through the state, are achieved by very large deficits, by English subsidy, transparent subsidy, and by implicit subsidy, because Scotland is guaranteed by its association with England, it is able to do things fiscally.
Honestly, you're out of touch, brother.
Tommy, shut up a minute.
Let him finish that. I'll come back to you.
If Scotland were independent, it would have to run its own affairs, and it would be under much stricter constraints. It would not be able to run the public sector deficits that it runs today. It would not have the subsidies implicit or transparent.
Okay.
I think what Scotland would do is it would move towards being a tiger economy in the way that Ireland did. It would start slashing taxes.
You mean it's going to go bankrupt?
Probably, but on the way,
Well, in the UK,
no, it probably would. But on the way, it would go for very low levels of cooperation.
What do you reply to that,
to be
Tommy?
attractive.
Michael is talking pure and utter rubbish.
Why?
He's arguing tonight for the legalisation of cannabis so he can come out and tell us he's actually been smoking it. Because the truth is, for the last 33 years in a row, not 3, 4, 5, 33 years in a row, Michael, we in Scotland have paid more into the Exchequer in London than we've got back. We ain't subsidy junkies. We're net contributors to the UK economy, and you guys ought to get to grip with that reality.
Why is saving the Union so important, Charles Kennedy?
Well, I think it is actually geographically, historically, a rather unique example of an historic, 300-year plus historic, successful working union on a voluntary basis of a mixture of countries that make up this part of the British Isles. And I think that, through all its imperfections, it's a family. Families have their ups and downs, their quarrels, but at the end of the day, you're still part of the family. I think that sentiment is an important one. But I think it's more than that, and I think this is part.
So why are we having a referendum? If that was true,
Well,
why would we get to where we are? The demand is to have a referendum.
Well, there's libraries, you know, full of books dedicated to this subject. One of the principal reasons, in fact, is Margaret Thatcher. She is the mother of devolution. I don't think she'll prove to be the mother of Scottish independence, but I think that the extent to which she alienated so much of middle opinion in Scotland, which came back to the 1950s through my boyhood, indeed till I was first elected in the House of Commons. The Conservatives were still a pretty viable, vibrant force. She lost that. She was alien. And What will happen if we went independent, I think this is where Tommy's argument that would be tested, is what happens to the SNP as a force in independence. They're now saying we carry on as the National Party of Scotland. I hear alarm bells ringing in that.
And you don't care so much.
It used to be the case they would go their separate ways,
All
left
right.
and right.
We're coming to the end of this part. Let me give you the final word.
Well, Charles and his friends believe UK OK. That's the slogan. We've got 900,000 extra people in poverty because of your condemned government, Charles. We've got 0-hour contracts, 1 million workers. We've got 500,000 people surviving in food banks. We've got poverty all over Britain. UK OK is not good enough. We should be ashamed of what the UK's done, Andrew. It's time for change. That's
Tommy Sheridan. Now,